Sentell out in front of Butts-Mehre Heritage Hall. Some news coming out of Georgia today, a lot of news coming out of Georgia today. It started earlier with revelation that they're going to be playing Florida State in a home-and-home. I know a lot of Georgia fans were really excited about that. And then we go out to practice, Jeff. A couple players were missing.
Yeah, it's funny. You know, there's a thing on the Georgia beat. When anybody goes on vacation, something weird happens. Some big news happens. Chip Towers is actually away right now. I'm filling in for giving my takes, I guess, a little bit. You look around and some squirrely things, Mike. Number one, you see, you don't see the number 84 working with the outside linebackers. You don't see number 1. You don't see number 33. Turns out there were some very good reasons for that. In Walter Grant's case, it's a very high mark, some high praise for Kirby Smart about his versatility, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later, but the big news of the day is obviously the arrests of 2 major frontline recruits for the Georgia program.
Yeah, misdemeanor arrests, less than 1 ounce of marijuana found on these athletes shortly after 3 o'clock, probably on their way to practice, I would say, and they posted bond in Athens Clark County Jail. Kirby Smart talked about it afterward, Jeff. How do you think the Georgia fans are going to react to this now? This is 6 players in the last 6 weeks, all misdemeanor charges, but I just got the feeling Kirby was frustrated, took full accountability. What do you think Georgia fans are going to have to say about this?
Well, I think number one, Kirby Smart actually kind of got shotgunned with this a little bit. He said he learned about it as he was kind of getting ready, walking out to practice. Didn't have a great practice day, and then when you look at what Georgia did today, you've got to wonder, you know, like, what does this mean? I think he was number one, he owned it. That's the main thing he did. But number 2, he said, guys, and, you know, this is kind of a condensed quote here, but he said, guys, 90% of this team does the right things. They don't miss meetings. They're not tardy. They're doing the things that he called a privilege to be at the University of Georgia. You're privileged to be a football player here at the University of Georgia. He was asked basically, what can Georgia do to prevent this? What he can do to prevent this, and he basically rattled off a few things. He said, number 1, make sure you're recruiting the right student athlete with the right moral center and the right goals. And, you know, there's a debate about this, no doubt, in our culture, but I think Kirby Smart laid it out. It's a law. It is a rule, and the University of Georgia football team and its players, because of those privileges, are going to follow those rules.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Kirby said he hasn't done a good enough job himself connecting with this group, and I think this is something Brenton Cox, we recently saw him go back in the football building. I would imagine he's going to meet with his coaches, his position coaches, as well as Kirby Smart. I could just tell this hurts Kirby Smart personally. I mean, Kirby is a Georgia Bulldog himself. He takes a lot of pride in this program, Jeff. He did light up today when we did ask about the scheduling. This is something that Kirby Smart is behind. You know, Jeff, we're in an age now where these coaches make so much money, and their job security is predicated now with the standards Kirby set on winning 11, 12 games a year, and yet and still he's talking about playing 3 Power 5 schools a year. The addition of Florida State, he says it helps recruiting. You talk to recruits all the time. How do you think recruits going to react?
Well, I think it's about money, Mike, which is what everything is, but it's also, he basically understands that the fan doesn't want to play those cupcake paycheck games. He wants people to come to University of Georgia and expect to play in big games. And I'm going to drop a new term here for you. I'm going to call it Kirby Stradamus a little bit. He was kind of predicting, Mike, that college football in 2029 and 2032, he thinks it might be radically different in the way you fix your schedule. You can't fix it now in 2019 and 2020, but you can fix it 10 years out. And what Kirby wants to do is to see a lot of Power 5 games, 3 Power 5 games a year, even outside the conference schedule on the Georgia schedule, because he feels way down the road here that the national tournament, whatever it is at that time, will be bigger and it will be expanded, in a 1-loss Georgia team or a 2-loss Georgia team, maybe taking 1 in conference play and then taking 1 by taking on another heavyweight across the country. And these home and homes won't affect the Bulldogs as much as it does now.
Now, one thing that didn't get brought up today, and you can read into it what you want, that Jacksonville contract only goes through 2021, and if you're talking about playing multiple home and homes out of conference, you've still got to have enough home games to host these official visitors, Jeff. I think we need to keep an eye on that Jacksonville game and what happens with that contract after 2021, because they're adding a lot of home and homes to the equation here. Let's finish up with a point you brought up at the very beginning. Walter Grant Not seeing him work with the linebackers. I thought I saw him in a highlight video wearing a red jersey. So what is that 84 doing in a red jersey? Jeff, you spied him today over there working with the running backs. What do we make of Walter Grant working with that position group, and what does that say for his future and what Kirby's trying to get done?
You know, instantly some people thought about, you know, what's happening with Walter Grant? Is this negative reinforcement? Georgia's stacking up a lot of outside linebackers, guys like Nolan Smith, Jermaine Johnson, Azeez Ojulari, Adam Anderson. Well, I think what it is now, especially reinforced by what Kirby Smart said today, is they're thin at tight end. They're very thin at running back, and they need to get reps for those young guys to see if they can play winning football for Georgia in the fall. And he basically praised Walter Grant. I remember when I was covering him as a high school kid, the coaches there at Cairo County, the syrup makers staff would always say, heady player, instinctive player, always knows what everybody's doing, always tackles guys, always gets them on the ground. And I think what we're seeing here with Walter Grant, by some great praise here from Kirby Smart, is a guy that's already got all the boxes checked, and Georgia knows what he can do at the outside linebacker position, and they need great reps. They need winning reps at the tight end spot and at the running back spot, and that's where Kirby Smart gave Walter Grant a lot of praise today.
You said Cairo and syrup. What was
the syrup makers? That's the name. That's one of the best names in high school football, Mike. The name of that high school program are the syrup makers.
Ah, Walter Grant, sweet player with sticky hands. No wonder they're working on offense a little bit.
Sticky hands.
We're going to wrap that up for tonight. You're going to hear more from Brandon Adams. Connor Riley was also there. Tons of stories up on DawgNation right now. You got to check it out. Check us out on Twitter. Jeff, thanks for standing in for Chip. I appreciate you really measured up. And we're going to close it down here from tonight in front of Butts-Mehre Heritage Hall. That's a cut. Thanks, guys.